am Stonewall and joined as well as God. From here, I get a sweep of the whole
We're back.
Welcome back to the Functional Human Podcast. My name is Jay. That is D. And boy, we have a lot of, as usual, we have a lot of stuff today. And somehow I think we found a thread that connects everything. I think, but I suppose the audience will have to decide, right?
Like a red string, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
If you will.
Mm-hmm.
If you will. So where should we start? Okay. I know what you want to get into, and I'm very excited to hear your dissertation on pesticides and on everything, you know.
Y'all will have to bear with me who watch the video because I'm going to be reading. It's just too much. It's long. Yeah.
Well, I mean, taking notes is...
I mean, that's how you do research. I can't
Yeah.
fucking formulate sentences and do research all at once. It's too much. Too much
No.
at 7 a.m.
No, I read in school, it was always... Writing always is what helped me synthesize information. It still does.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But okay, so let's start with this. I'm going to share screen. This is I got myself into a little bit of a, well, Daryl sent me something and then I found it on my own and I was like, okay, I got to comment on this. So this is going to set the stage. This is the whole idea. You guys know how we feel about calories here, right? It's not that calories in, calories out. It's not that calories don't matter. It's that they don't matter the way people think they do. They're certainly not the be-all, end-all of anything. And they absolutely, and good luck counting them and taking account for what's in your food because those labels can be off. And unless you're living in a metabolic ward, you don't really know exactly what you're expending. So you're kind of guessing. And it says nothing about health. So calories are great, but they're just one piece of this gigantic puzzle. And some people out there think that there is nothing else but calories to be concerned with. And he wrote this incredibly stupid, our favorite Layne Norton wrote this incredibly stupid post that was shared by Rob Wolf. And I commented on it and it caused a whole shitstorm and it was pretty funny. If I do say so myself. So I'm going to share screen. We're going to go take a look at it together. Let's see. And then I really do think this is going to lead into everything, hopefully, if we do our jobs correctly.
Leads into everything.
Yeah.
That's why calories cannot just be on their own because there's so many things that come into play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's wild. It's wild that anybody would think that calories are all that matters, but they do. So this is just from the very end of July. There is no evidence that exchanging high fructose corn syrup sweetened Coca-Cola for cane sugar sweetened Coca-Cola will have any capitalized impact on human health. None. Zero. Secretary Kennedy, I invite you to produce one study demonstrating that substituting cane sugar for high fructose corn syrup improves health outcomes. We need to address we need to address the real issue that no one in Maha wants to touch. The average calories consumed in the US is 3540 per day. And the average physical activity is less than 20 minutes per day. That is the real issue. Calories in versus calories out.
Yeah. And I mean, anyway, whatever. We'll go.
No, go ahead. Jump in.
I don't know what he's trying to do here. Like, what is your purpose? I'm not even saying, I think that we could find a better alternative to cane sugar as well. Mm-hmm. But how can you not think that the reason why people may be consuming 3,540 calories is due to the lack of nutrients that these people are ingesting and the hyper palatable foods that are very addictive to a nutrient void host who is constantly hungry, constantly craving, constantly hooked to things that have both sugar and caffeine, which enhances them to be more addictive. Like, how can he not think that those things correlate? Like, people, Humans did not just wake up one day and decide to eat 3,540 calories. There was an evolution to that. And
Mhm.
yes, of course, from that much food intake and being overweight, obese, morbidly obese, whatever category, of course you're not working out. Of course you're not moving. Like it's trying to address the root cause, you would say?
Yeah, I mean,
Like, I don't
that,
know. I'm not saying like what he's all of it is off. Yes, like this is where you and I feel like you and I are where we are not like on a straight, like, how do I say this? We are not on a straight and narrow line where just because somebody we don't agree with most of the time says something, we can't see another message. And I'm not saying that his message is incorrect. Like, yeah, there is an overconsumption in calories, and yeah,
Mhm.
there is a lack of movement. But
Mhm.
can you, Lane, not see that there is a road to that?
Right. Well, I mean, that's just one of many excellent points that could be made as a rebuttal to this. I mean, again, he doesn't even have the I'll try to refrain from restating my public comments, but in my opinion, you know, he doesn't have the intellectual curiosity, honesty, or intellectual prowess to
I don't know.
understand that that Secretary Kennedy's job is to address a lot of things, and this is what has driven me crazy about everything. And even Rob Wolf's response was that something along the lines of, "I don't like Layne Norton, but he's right here." And I'm like, no, actually, you're missing the point too, Rob. And Rob has, I really like Rob Wolf, but man, he has been disappointing me in several areas lately too, because you have to understand that if you're the Secretary of Health and Human Services, your job is to address health on multiple levels. And people, every single person that I have unfollowed over this past year, since the Trump administration and Kennedy have been put into a position of power, has been that everybody seems to want to just hang on to their one pet issue. And if that pet issue isn't addressed exactly the way I want and exactly in the timing that I want, Maha movement is bullshit. This is all bullshit. This isn't worth it, right? And that's the vibe that I get from this post. It's like, well, you could look at a bunch of things like you just said, Daryl. High fructose tends to drive appetite. So yeah, and people are making the mistake that high fructose corn syrup and natural sugar are the same thing. They're not the same thing. The reason it's called high fructose corn syrup is because there's a higher percentage of fructose in the molecule. So it is not the same thing. Not to mention the fact that most corn in this country is genetically modified. So now you're making high fructose corn syrup, which is higher in fructose, with a genetically modified organism. So
With tons of pesticides and herbicides that we're going to talk about today as well.
Exactly, right? So already in 5 seconds we've determined that there probably is, and again, what Lane does is what he loves to do is he loves to put the burden of proof on the people that are just saying, hey, we need to eat real food. He actually doesn't understand that the burden of proof is actually on him to prove that all of these additives and all of the chemicals and artificial sweeteners and all the things that he vehemently defends, he needed to prove that they were safe to begin with. We've reversed this so long ago that now we are under the assumption that the people like Layne Norton can say, oh, you need to prove it's harmful. No, jackass, you need to prove that it's safe. You've always needed to prove that it's safe. The burden of proof is on you. And he can't wrap his mind around that. And he's just going after the calories argument. But before we go to the pesticides, Daryl, then let me.
Yeah, I want to see the comment. I don't know this for a fact. Obviously, I have no idea. There is just something about him that my gut and my juju goes off. Like, I know you say he doesn't have the intellectual capacity or the curiosity, maybe, but there is something going on underneath there. I don't know what it is, but you can't, I don't know. I feel like you can't, because he's smart in many areas. Like, I don't understand how you can't.
Well, Daryl, what yeah, I mean,
how?
What have we learned over the past 5 years of the COVID debacle is that, you know, I know a lot of people, let's just put it this way. Raw intelligence is not the ultimate marker of overall intelligence. I know that sounds kind of like a weird thing to say, but let me just explain it a little bit. It's you can mimic intelligence by having a very good memory, by having a very good oratory skill, like that you can recite memorized facts even if you don't actually understand them at all. I know people like this in school that could regurgitate information, and they seem really they just seem really smart because they're using big words, they're very confident in their delivery, and he does all that stuff. But I also know if you're able to push them in certain areas, you can very quickly see the house of cards come crumbling down, because it's not real depth of intelligence.
About one person about like this was very famous. You talked about person.
Yeah. And I know people in my personal life. I knew people at school that were like this. And again, I'm not casting aspersions on them. I mean, having that ability to do that is important, and it's useful if you use the power properly. But if you try to mask understanding and wisdom with just raw intellect, you're going to fall short, in my opinion, because you're going to start to do things like this. You're going to show very clearly that you don't actually understand the bigger picture. And that was my main comment here, was that he's missing the whole point, because Lane loves to talk about quantity. And what we're trying to talk about here is quality. It does no good to tell somebody that they're obese because they eat too much. That does nothing for somebody. In fact, when you exercise more, I hear this all the time from people. The more I exercise, the more I have an appetite. And it's like, so if that were the case, to just eat less and move more, you would think the regulatory systems in the body would allow for that. But the fact that it really doesn't allow for that says that there's something else going on. And what you said, the ultra processed food environment. But I want to show you a paper that maybe we won't do it today because
I see this with clients all the time, Jay. Like in the beginning, when they switch, especially the ones who are like ultra processed and are quite overweight and really need to address metabolic health. When we switch from what they used to eat to whole foods, sometimes the first entire month, they're like, I can't eat all this food. It's too much food. And I'm like, give it time. You need to move, you need to walk, you need to work out, you need to eat regularly, because I'm trying to get them into a pattern of eating enough and not binging at night, right? There's layers there. It's not like,
is that like that concept of, it's not exactly this, but like the idea of reverse dieting, almost, to like teach your body that there's not scarcity, that there's plenty of food, and to eliminate some of the cravings?
Yeah, I mean, reverse dieting in the bodybuilder world is to bring back food weekly and calories back weekly. Okay. And the reason why, I'm sure you've seen this, where people go from being stage ready to all of a sudden they're a fucking balloon, is because they didn't reverse properly. So they stay in a huge calorie deficit for so long, and then they go right back to eating how they used to, because they can't physically control themselves because they've been starving for so long. So you need to do a reverse. But I don't think it's necessarily that. I think they're just not used to eating real food. You eat a steak and a banana, you're full.
Yeah.
You eat a bag of chips, you're not.
No. And I mean, anybody can see that. And to force this constant calorie argument on people, it's just wild. Like again, you can tell he's not a clinician as well. And this is something that I think the audience really needs to understand. You know, I don't know. I know he runs like a coaching program, but that's not the same as being a clinician.
Does he? For what?
Oh, whatever, the bros. I mean, like, because one of the comments, someone said, like, I've learned everything about health from Layne Norton. And I kind of was like, I feel bad for you then. Because, he said, because I found there was another post that he was making fun of somebody for talking about sugar and the downsides of sugar. And he literally said, the only downside to sugar is because you're eating too many calories, right? Like, sugar itself is not problematic, which again tells me that he's never run an insulin on somebody, he's never run an HbA1c, never run a C-peptide, doesn't understand blood sugar handling and what the effects are in the body. He doesn't know, or he doesn't care to know, or he conveniently avoids it because his clickbait brand is being a dick and boiling everything down into like the most simple solution to a problem that's incredibly complex. He's always talking about quantity when really what we should be talking about is quality. Because as you said, what's driving the overeating? Are you really telling me that the Doritos or the pure sugar that you're eating in the form of a Twinkie has the same satiety, has the same metabolic effects. 100 calories of that is 100 calories of steak. It's nonsense to think that. Nobody would think that. Nobody believes that. But his argument boils down to that. That is what he's saying.
Yeah.
So you're right. I don't know. I mean, so I go back and forth. Sometimes I feel like it's just intellectual fraud and that he's just doing it because he's a social media star and that's what you have to do. If that's the case, then I have even less respect for him because you're not telling the truth. And if he doesn't know the truth, then I don't have much respect for him because he should at a PhD level understand this better. So no matter how you look at Layne Norton, I'm kind of disgusted by the whole persona because it's not serving anybody. And the people who say they've learned all this from him, you know, I really would like to sit down with them and push them on that. But you can't, because in social media world, you just get ravenous people being so rude and defending their positions rather than really trying to understand what's going on. It just never works out.
Yeah, I see here. I just did a quick search. He has an app. It's called the Carbon app, the Carbon Coaching app. So people, I think it's subscription based. But you know who's on that? Experts' opinions. He has 3 people that just you know how you could put Google reviews on your page or 3 faces of people with their reviews. Andrew Huberman.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Huberman again has a ton of holes in his game as well because that's not what he does. He doesn't do nutrition. He doesn't do, you know, he does neuroscience and that's very valuable, but there's a ton of holes in his game. People send me stuff from him all the time and I'm like, yeah, that's not right. And he doesn't understand the research, and that's fine.
I think it would just destroy his entire, that's probably what it is. He gets defensive because it would destroy his entire platform, his entire business, his entire mantra, to which he makes money off, right? If he has a coaching app, he probably dishes the sugar-free syrups on your pancakes and the whatever else, right?
Artificial sweeteners. Yeah.
So let's see that comment.
Well, I'll show you in a second. Let me share this first though, because this is a good study that I think maybe we won't go into it too much this week. Because again, I didn't send it to you, but I think you might actually really enjoy this. It's brand new. And I started highlighting it because I wanted to bring it up on a show at some point. Just came out. Energy expenditure and obesity across the economic spectrum. So it's really interesting. I'll just read you the significance. Economic development is associated with an increased prevalence of obesity and related health problems, but the relative importance of increased caloric intake and reduced energy expenditure remains unresolved. We show that daily energy expenditure are greater in developed populations, and activity energy expenditure are not reduced in more industrialized populations, changing the hypothesis that decreased physical activity contributes to rise in obesity with economic development. Instead, our results suggest that dietary intake plays a far greater role than reducing expenditure in the elevated prevalence of obesity associated with economic development. So this is a great paper because what we're being told is that, well, you just need to eat less and move more. And Layne even said in that post, the problem is we're not moving enough. Actually, and I'm going to write a full Substack on this because I've got this bug in my ear now about this because I've been looking up a lot of things and I'm starting to collect data on this. But if you think about it, since the 1970s, there's been an intentional push for exercise. Like you think about like the Jane Fondas, like the aerobics, you know, like all the gym movements. Those really only started in the 1970s and 1980s. That's when they became like on the forefront and people started intentionally exercising. That was really never a thing prior to that because life just created the exercise for you. You know, there was just less. There was less to hold you down to screens, and there was more of a reason to move and to do things. And if you go back even further, obviously, when life depended on movement, obviously that's clear. But I think what's cool about this paper is that it's actually exploring the idea that actually as populations get more developed, they actually do increase their energy expenditure. So then, So then what is the solution then? And they really start to talk about food. And let me just show you one other section that's highlighted because I do think it's worth looking at. Sorry. That's
I do think that there is a lack of movement too, though, because when clients first come to me and they see their step count for the day that they used to do, and now they need to track it, they're like, holy shit, I was only getting like 3,000 steps a day. And
Agreed.
that is because of the high-tech industrial car, food apps, everything brought to you. You don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah. No,
happen. Yeah.
You're right. By the individual, you're right. But population wise, it doesn't explain the obesity epidemic, right?
Well, in the 1970s, everything started happening with ultra processed foods and fast foods.
Exactly.
As well. So
right.
those two things started happening at the same time.
So they say our analysis suggests that increased energy intake has been roughly 10 times more than declining total energy expenditure in driving modern obesity crisis. One recent change in global food systems is access to ultra-processed foods among populations that traditionally had minimal exposure. While intake of ultra-processed foods has been associated with risk of obesity and obesity-related outcomes, the mechanisms involved are not clear. The low cost and long shelf lives of these foods may contribute to increased availability of calories. The hyperpalatability, energy density, nutrient composition, and appearance of ultra-processed foods might disrupt satiety signaling and encourage overconsumption. But Lane says that's not possible. That's not true. It's just calories in, calories out. But I just want to read a little bit more because I think this is pretty interesting. Processing has also been shown to increase the percentage of calories consumed that are absorbed in the body rather than excreted. We found some support for the obesogenic role of ultra-processed foods in the current database. The last thing they said here was 25 populations in this same sample for whom dietary data were available, the percent of ultra-processed foods in the diet were positively correlated with body fat percentage, both in bivariate analysis and multivariate, yada, yada. By contrast, per capita meat consumption, another dietary change associated with development, was not significantly associated with fat percentage. So they're even telling you in this article that it's not about calories, that the type of food you're consuming actually really does determine a whole bunch of different factors. How much of that food is actually used for energy, how much it controls your hormones and your satiety signals. So again, I don't know how anybody can be honest with themselves and say, oh yeah, this is just a calories in, calories out problem. We just need to eat less and move more. I mean, it's just laughably stupid because that's been the mantra forever and it's not working. We're not getting any healthier. We keep allowing, by virtue of that, if we make it about calories, then we keep allowing all these frankenfoods into the food supply, and we never even take a look at if that's part of the problem, at least contributory. No, it's not. It's just calories. Just eat the Twinkie. Yeah. It doesn't matter as long as you're in your calorie deficit. That's what these people say.
Yeah, it makes no sense. We're also not robots, right? You have to take into accountability emotions and behavioral issues and attachments to foods and binge eating and like actual issues with food. And you tell somebody who has issues with food to just eat less, who has been eating an ultra processed food diet their whole life, they're going to binge at night. That's what's going to happen. I see it when clients first come to me. That's what they do. I ask for a food journal, and I would say not all, like some people come to me, they have a great foundation, but for like the extreme cases, they don't eat all day and then binge like crazy at night because they're starving.
And then I would say shame on someone like Andrew Huberman, who does neuroscience, to not understand that there is more to food and the information that it provides the central nervous system than just calories. Like, shame on you. You
How could you put your name on his app when you know what he stands for and then go on podcasts and say the complete opposite? Because that's what he does. Like,
well, when
he goes on like the granola people's podcasts, he says, of course, ultra processed foods, not good, la 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 la. Right. Well,
I mean, and that makes me, I've always had my doubts about Andrew Huberman, to be perfectly honest. I think some of these people who rise to that level of influencer, I don't always trust them. In fact, I would say that actually my default position is to not trust them. I make them show me that they've earned it and that they actually have an ability to parse information and they can grasp the nuance and that they do these things. They don't just follow the trends or whatever. And, Andrew Huberman has been suspect to me from the beginning.
I'm pretty sure Joe Rogan called him out one day. There was something about that where he went on Joe Rogan's podcast.
Yeah.
Joe was like, I can't remember. I would have to pull that up. I'd have to find it again. But he called him out on something. He was like, no, that doesn't make sense. And then he backpedaled.
Yeah. I just think in the world we live in, we really, really, really have to be careful with who we, follower count means nothing.
I think
artificially created,
Absolutely. And media, like artificially created, like on social media, but also pushed by the media. Oh, we like this
Uh-huh.
person. This person can
Yeah.
do this for us, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Push this movement, and that's what I think is happening with Lane. To be honest, that's what my gut is telling me. There's something behind all of this, because I would love to think that he's not that naive. That's my hope for him. But I forget where I was going with that. I just got.
Sorry.
Anyway, let's see your comment.
Okay. This is I wonder if I'm going to make myself look bad by
By biting.
I mean no,
by
I
being
didn't.
spicy?
It wasn't too bad.
It doesn't
So-
happen often from you.
No, it doesn't. I don't, it's boring, like, to get involved in these things. So Rob, again, he agreed with him. Lane is both a turd and not wrong about this. If RFK wants to really affect some changes, this comment really bothered me. He'd get the subsidy programs, which would force a retooling of the food system. He is doing that, Rob. Instead, he has championed one-off topics like seed oils and high fructose corn syrup. Again, thinking that man-made fats are not a big problem, again, shows a lack of understanding on Rob Wolf's part, which I was disappointed in.
Yeah.
Which is catnip for those in the health space and love majoring in the minors, but entirely misses the mark of actual change. That I completely disagree, Rob.
Right.
Completely disagree. So then I said about Lane, his limited intellect and inability to think through problems tells him that calories in out is the solution to literally everything. Obviously, this problem is multifactorial, but to him, simply eating less high fructose corn syrup, GMOs, artificial sweeteners, glyphosate, etc., all the things he sees no evidence of negative health effects, will solve all problems. It's nonsense, and all of the things being addressed will matter in the end. That's me addressing Rob Wolf. He's missing the bigger picture as usual. Lane doesn't possess the skill set to address these complex systems and problems.
And then
And I did.
what happened to 33 replies? What
Yeah.
happened? I will just read a couple. Or
As usual, you've entertained me.
right.
Some people
Agreed.
agreed. Yeah, came here to say it's amazing how he can be so confident and blustery while being dead wrong. Lane Norton is a Dunning-Kruger to a T.
I saw somebody else call him out too. A few people are starting to call him out now.
Yeah. Have you? So tell me about that, because I have not really
I
seen
forget.
that.
I'd have to send it to you. Maybe if I see
Yeah.
it again, I'll
Okay.
send it to you. But I saw a female call him out. I just can't remember who.
I mean, I just when you really start to, I don't know, and maybe it's just the advantage that I have. I understand the public might not get the nuance, but I just think about some of the classes I had, and I know that he had some of these classes too. Like when I think about nutritional biochemistry, or like any of the really, the mind-blowing classes that I had, where I was learning things that I just never thought I could even comprehend, to then go through all that and then come out saying exactly what somebody who never went through that would say, it's like a remarkable rebuke of like all the privilege, and I mean that literally, the privilege you've had to learn all that incredible information and to just discount it and be like, yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
could be as well with him? It could be a bias because he grew up in the bodybuilding world and he has seen how you can lose weight very quickly and get shredded by just doing the calorie thing.
Yeah.
So, years and years of that, and years of seeing it, and years of coaching people like that. And of course people are going to drop weight. Doesn't mean they're healthy.
Right.
Maybe
That's the
that
quantity over
comes into
quality.
play. And I think that there's, again, something behind it. And he has coaching apps that preach that, and he's been preaching that forever. So
It's true. The bodybuilding world just only focuses on results in terms of physique, the physical results, the quantitative results, not the qualitative results. I don't think anybody's under the impression that bodybuilding is healthy.
dear Lord, no, it's not.
Yeah. So I suppose that is but then again, what a massive blind spot at this point in your life, Lane, to not understand that. And again, to be dragging other people into that misconception is really just sort of unconscionable, because again, either you believe it, which means you really didn't absorb your PhD very well, or you don't believe it and you're doing it for the clicks, which makes you disingenuous. Either way, you lose.
And money, because he's coaching, right?
Yeah. It's not something I could live with myself for doing anyway. And I guess that's just what, All right. Well, rather than get into the pesticide stuff now, let me just share this one other, and then we'll do all, and because it does connect with everything, because now we're talking about why, all the things we want to try to change and all, why all of this stuff does matter. It's not, seed oils and high fructose corn syrup are one-offs, Rob Wolf. Like, what are you talking about? Everything matters. I just, again, I don't understand why it's got to be your pet thing or my pet thing that he addresses.
Did he
He's the
answer?
secretary. Was
Rob?
that?
Did
No,
Rob?
he didn't.
No.
He didn't. Which is surprising because he does usually when I comment, he does answer.
Yeah, because you
maybe
said you know each other, so I thought
Yeah.
maybe he answered. But
maybe he didn't like my comment. Oh well, it wouldn't be the first time.
he'll be all right.
He'll be fine. All right, so let's do this one. This is interesting.
You were still. I was gonna say you were respectful, but you didn't name call him.
No.
Yeah.
Was that respectful, Daryl? Was I respectful?
You kind of called him dumb, but it's okay. Just like in a more intellectual, rainbowy, fluffed up way.
I was not happy, and I was also trying to make you happy because I know that kind of stuff. I know that kind of stuff makes you happy.
Until now, yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and like that right after this.
So, ironically, on the same concept,
hell yeah.
This is a good thing. And again, I'm not arguing that exercise isn't incredibly beneficial. I don't let me make sure before we close this episode out that people don't get it twisted that I'm saying like exercise doesn't matter. I am absolutely not saying that. And if you go back years and years and years, you can see me write about exercise as medicine. It is medicine. It is incredibly important. It is just not the sole driver of obesity, the lack of exercise. But on that same tip, this is President Trump bringing back the presidential fitness test. I didn't get to read this article, so I don't want to go through the whole thing, but there's a couple of cool points I think I saw from generations of U.S. school children. Phrases like shuttle run and sit and reach. Oh God, I remember those. Likely conjure vivid memories of what was once a staple of American physical education, the physical fitness test. And thanks to new executive order, it's slated to return to gymnasiums nationwide. Thursday, President Trump signed the executive order reviving the test, standardized exercise that schools conducted to measure students' physical fitness for over half a century until 2013, when President Barack Obama phased it out in favor of a more holistic approach. Great. It is not yet clear which exercises will be part of the test going forward.
Holistic? Does holistic correlate with no exercise?
Exactly. Yeah. I want to sit in the library and talk about my feelings instead of actually moving, not that you can't talk about your feelings, but can you also exercise, please?
Go for a fucking run first and then see if you still have the same feelings.
Right. Yeah. From the late 1950s until 2013, graduate scholars across the country competed against each other in the presidential fitness test. And it was a big deal, Trump said at the signing ceremony, flanked by a slew of professional athletes. Wonderful tradition. America's 250th birthday. There was something else that
this is really great because it's not, well, first of all, I wonder if Lane's going to address this, because this is a movement into the more exercise that he says that
he should love it, right?
Yeah, but I don't think he's probably not going to pull that or talk about it, or if he does, he might complain about something else. But I love this because there's so much layers to it. It's not just the exercise. It's the, I don't know if you can say this in English, but esprit de corps with how you say?
I know the term.
Between kids in school.
Mm-hmm.
It's competitiveness between kids in school. And, I wonder if there's research to back this up, but if you take like kids who are in sports programs, athlete programs, or are very athletic, and kids who aren't, like in terms of just their ability to interact with other kids and maybe be just more alert in school and just more higher performance and not be afraid of things because they're trying new things. Like there's something to say about that, exposing kids to hardship so that they can go through it and get better. I find that we are in a society that just likes to coddle and we're not doing anything. And I see this again with clients, and this is not a bad thing against them, but they do come to me and then they're anxious about just something as simple as going to the gym. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to bring that down. I understand, I've been there, but it's just like the more we push people and from a young age to pass through these things that actually will not hurt you, right? There's no big bad monster at the end of the gym hall or at the
Right.
end of the beep test or at the end of the mile. It's not things that are actually dangerous for you. You actually help them develop this skill where if they feel anxious, it doesn't consume them and they can run through it because they're confident. And you rinse and
Yeah.
repeat that, and you get somebody who is highly efficient, who isn't afraid of going for things and pushing and achieving because they haven't been coddled. I find this kind of stuff. So when I see this, I'm not just like, oh, cool exercise. I'm like, what else does it do?
No, and that term actually has become an English phrase. So I don't think you even need an English version. It's like one of those it's one of those foreign language phrases in English that like everybody kind of knows what that is.
Esprit de corps.
Yeah, and it does, and I don't know if there's research, but I'm almost positive there is, because I feel like I've seen stuff related to it. Camaraderie, understanding how to work as a team. You know, there's just so many different aspects.
Competitiveness.
Yes,
that's an important one, because if a child grows up thinking that they can win everything all the time or get everything all the time, that creates somebody who is not able to function in the real world. And you see that again. Yeah, and I see that with just like kids around. You see it, the ones who have been in sports, the ones who do things like, I'm not saying you have to put your kid in MMA or jiu-jitsu, but they teach that kind of stuff, right? It's like you're not always going to win, and how you respond after you check your ego at the door. Like these are really good foundational life skills for kids. And if that goes across the US, is that everywhere?
Yeah.
The US, Italy, Switzerland, and Austria. Am I seeing that?
Oh, okay.
I don't know. It's your article.
Oh yeah. No, I mean this is just for the US. I'm sure other countries still do it though.
Yeah. I just think that's excellent.
No, it is. And so in the last piece of this was, President John F. Kennedy built on Eisenhower, his predecessor, his momentum, launching a nationwide public service campaign encouraging Americans to take the 50-mile hikes once required of U.S. Marines. Kennedy was a strong advocate of physical fitness, penning an influential Sports Illustrated essay to the effect titled "The Soft American." So he agreed with you. Yeah. As president-elect in 1960. And then so Trump referenced the essay in his executive order, and RFK talked about it at the signing ceremony. He lamented the fact that America had prided itself on a beef jerky toughness, and that we were falling behind Europeans. We were falling behind other nations, Kennedy said of his uncle.
So many areas are falling behind. I can attest to that, because in the military,
right,
you're supposed to pass a fitness test, but I know a lot of people who can't pass their fitness test and they still are in the military.
And you've told us about this a bunch, where they're like lowering the standards as well.
They're lowering the standards. They're allowing you to be on a category longer. And I'm not talking about the people who get injured. I'm talking about the people who are just unhealthy and can't do it. That's an issue. Like it's an issue in a position where you need to defend your country. It's the same thing as a police officer. I need a fucking healthy police officer or firefighter if I'm in danger.
Well, you've also highlighted the important societal aspect of it. It speaks to a larger problem that society becomes soft and coddled and all of these things, and we just lose the sharpness that is necessary, because life isn't always going to give you exactly what you expect, and you can't have a safe space or a run to the corner when things don't work the way you want them to. And there's a huge aspect to that. And it's like giving everybody a trophy, or, like making sure everybody gets good grades and all that kind of stuff. And that doesn't actually help people. You need to struggle is nature's way of sharpening the individual. And that's not just individuals. That's in the animal kingdom as well. Struggle to survive is what differentiates survival from death. And we just because we can create a soft landing for everybody doesn't mean it's to our societal advantage to do so. And I think that's one of the big problems.
Agreed.
All right, so that's a great place to end this. Perfect. And then we'll just kind of jump into all the other stuff. I do have another article that we could start off with, but I'm kind of afraid because that could branch off into things, and I want to make sure that we get to the pesticide stuff. But
yeah, we were supposed to talk about that, and here we are 40 minutes later, all because of Lane Norton's post.
Yeah. But I think, I think that stuff really does matter because people out there really don't know oftentimes what to follow, what, there's so much conflicting advice. And, again, we would never tell you what or who to listen to. It's just, use your discernment, listen to your gut and say, does this actually make sense? And don't pay attention to how many followers, how many clicks they get. That's not the measure of information. The measure of information for you is going to be what resonates with you. And I think that's, that's a good lesson.
I think it's okay too to agree with different points of different people. Like just because I think this is what happens with people getting their information from social media. They pick one person. They're like, oh, this one person said this one thing one time, and now I'm going all in on this one person. And then whatever they say after that, just it's a huge movement. Yeah. Like you can definitely be like, no, I don't agree with you on that. And I've done that many times with people I greatly respect.
Yeah.
So discernment, as you said.
Absolutely. All right. So next week we'll get into all the rest of the stuff. So thank you guys for hanging out, and we will talk to you soon.
Ciao for now.